Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to another show, my dear brothers and sisters. I am certainly excited about this show, as I should be about each and every show that I'm involved in, because it is a wonderful opportunity to be able to stream live around the entire world. As I sit here in Chicago today, I'm Skyping with my brother, Dr. Tyrone Powers. I did say that's what he is. He's a doctor. And he's there in Maryland right now, Prince George County, isn't it? Is George got anything to do with this one?
No, sir. I'm in Baltimore City.
Baltimore City.
Yes,
but
sir.
Prince George is one of the more exclusive
affluent counties. Yes, sir.
You know, I was surprised the enormous amount of wealth that those people have there. But they act like they have wealth because they shun the so-called American Negro as often as possible, not knowing that they one of them. But thank you so much, Doctor, for joining me today. I was scheduled to talk to you last week, and we did touch bases, but we didn't hook up very long. But
yes,
we've
sir.
talked over the years and months, and sometimes I don't think people know your history.
Yes, sir.
And but you know it, and you've been a determined young man, and you're not quite 50 yet, are you?
Yes, sir. I'm past 50.
Oh, that's terrible. Okay, so you did make 50.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Damn, you're not working on 60, are you?
Close to it, Brother Manir. And I thank God for every day that I'm here, considering some of the trials, tribulations, and confrontations that I've been through. So I'm pleased to be here, and pleased to have been able to, for God to have allowed me to see my children become adults and allowed me to see my grandchildren. Not everybody get this opportunity, so I'm just going to count every blessing and continue to try to stay physically fit and try to maintain my health as long as I possibly can.
Now, you said something there. You happy to see your grandchildren. And many times we take these things for granted. Having spent a little time in Ghana at the point of no return, that was designed to keep you from even thinking about your grandchildren.
Yes, sir.
Because they didn't even want you to know that you could have children, period. Because remember, you came to America not as a citizen, but as a slave.
And I think that's, I'm sorry, Brother Man.
But they reduced you to nothing. And on the way over here, there were some of our people who had been used to being free till they threw themselves overboard, you know, rather than to be born in this new world that people were talking about where they would become slaves. And whenever we bring this kind of conversation up, it has a tendency to anger people, including those of us that it hurt. But you wanted to say something before I interrupted you. What was it?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things that you pointed out that are so important. You know, the transatlantic trade slave is just a monumental things in history. I had a debate with a professor from Towson State University, and she was arguing about slavery in and of itself. And I was trying to explain that there's never been a system of slavery that have reduced human beings to the point that this Atlantic slave trade reduced black people. In other words, there had been slavery before that, but you lost a war, you were enslaved, nobody thought you were less of a human being, and nobody did things like breeding you with your son. They breeded a mother with a son to produce a better slave in front of the father. Or took a little girl and made her have sex with her brother. You got to see how evil and dastardly and destructive this kind of thing is. No other system of slavery would take a mother, make her have sex with her son in front of a brother or a father so that they could get a better slave. That's just a remarkable point in history. So all the time, and there are blacks who do this too. There are blacks who come and say, well, you know, to an extent we participated in slavery. Even those who sold other blacks into slavery could not have anticipated the brutality of this slavery. They knew about slavery. Slavery is brutal in and of itself, but it is a system that was designed. You get conquered, you have to work for me, because to the victor go the spoils. Not you get conquered. Now I'm going to declare you less than a human being. I'm going to have you rape your mother, your sister. I'm going to make a brother have sex with his sister for the purpose of building a better slave. That kind of evilness. And I don't think that's why even to this day we haven't got beyond that, because there's never been a system that evil in the history of the world as we know it. And I think it's so important for us to point that out. I point that out. They asked me to teach a special class at Bowie State University, which is a historically black housing university, on race, gender, and class. And I was explaining to the students that there is no equal to that transatlantic slave trade. And you cannot forget those people who suffered under that. You cannot forget the son who watched his mother raped by his brother. You cannot forget that kind of whipping. And if you do, then something is extremely wrong with us.
Well, look, I want to pursue that, so I'm going to hold you there for one moment. Let me take a quick call, and I want to pursue that a little further, because I don't want you just throw it off a subject and we don't pursue it.
Yes, sir.
Caller, you're on the air.
Assalamu alaikum, my brother, and assalamu alaikum to you too, Doc. This is Hamid calling from Fort Washington, Maryland. I know you're up in Baltimore.
Yes, sir.
But I just want to let you all know, it's a very interesting topic that you're covering today. It takes me back to the time when I was in Maryland, in Germany, in the army in 1963, when they bombed the church in Birmingham. And me being from Birmingham, and I'm 3,000 miles from home, supposed to be protecting the freedom of this country. I was talking to one of my brothers this morning up in Rochester, and over the years, he was born in Detroit. And at some point, he couldn't understand what I was trying to tell him about what we had to go through in the South, because he was born in the North. But I was talking to him this morning, and he told me, he said, "Now I see what you was talking about."
Well, thank you for that comment. Now, let me go back to something that Dr. Powers said. There was someone at a historical black college that wanted you to speak on the subject matter, race, class, and gender. Is that right or wrong?
Yes, sir.
Now, I'm going to ask you, what did that mean to you? Because many times our people throw subjects out there. I'm just wondering, are they serious about what they think they're serious about? Or is it another cliche, just as this thing where everybody feels that they're compelled to write a book today? So explain that to me. What came to mind when they asked you to do that, son?
Well, I took it, to be quite frank with you, Brother Monet, I took it as an opportunity, because whenever I can get in front of young people, I don't care what you call me to talk about. If you give me the opportunity to access the minds of our young people, I'll take it from there. So whatever you set it up to be, once you invite me in that room, you may never invite me back, but once you invite me in that room, and the young people were so engaged, they didn't know about this. I took parts of Thomas Jefferson wrote one book, Notes on the State of Virginia. I put that up on slides and said, this is the man who has a monument in Washington, D.C., who said the only thing that could choose a black woman over a white woman is an orangutan. He said that we smell worse, that we are inferior in mind and body. So I wanted them to know this, because one of the young men raised his hand.
Do you want them to know what Jefferson said about us as human beings?
Yeah, and because one of the young men said, but I went to Thomas Jefferson Middle School. I said, look, you in a majority black city, with a black mayor, a black CEO of the school, and they're naming schools Thomas Jefferson and sending black people in there when he talked about your mother and everybody else, and they got to put your name on the school. I said, but it's not your fault. It's the people who didn't educate you. Your fault. You said to me one time before, my brother Munir, that the teacher, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, is so important, because if you don't get those teachings, no telling where Brother Munir may be. And I'm telling them that if we're not giving them those teachings, they got a problem.
So now, are you telling me that you didn't buy Elvis blue suede shoes?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Brothers and sisters, we're streaming live all over the entire world, and we're talking to Dr. Tyrone Powell. Now, I just want on a very serious note, Doc, I know you're not going to be with us the entire show, and brothers and sisters, we awaiting a call in from our sister from London, RITA GAYLE, who's our correspondent in London, who keeps us abreast of what's going on from across the pond. But let me press you on this, Doc. You say just get you in the room. Because of your training, you feel like you'll be able to touch that young man and young soul if you're given the opportunity, right?
Yes. Yes, sir.
All right, now let me say this to you. I just happened to be listening to a tape that Minister Farrakhan did in 1970 at a graduation class, and I'm so happy. I spoke to him briefly, and I could have mentioned it. This particular tape, I had been asking him about a tape that I first heard him speak on from Peter Stuyvesant School in New York City. And he spoke to this elite of our class. They were of black people. You know, they were busing our young people at that time. And they invited him. And when they invited him, he was speaking and the bell rung. And nobody moved.
Yes, sir.
And he said they really didn't want us here. He said, but nevertheless, we are here. And his words, he said, Mr. Muhammad can teach you more in 1 hour than you've learned all your life, all your parents' life. He was that confident. And to show you that that was not an accident, I'm listening to a tape now, as I say, was not at Peter Stuyvesant High School, but these young people, it was in Brooklyn, New York, but these young people were telling why they had brought Minister Farrakhan back. They said, we brought him here before, and we kind of, determined, we vote on who we're going to have. Said, but once we threw Minister Farrakhan's name out, we just put somebody else up there because they had already chosen. Here's the point I'm mentioning. They were allowing him, even though they weren't Muslims, he said, they don't want to be the faculty. See, it was for the students, the commencement. And he took the subject, the commencement, and was educating them to the commencement of knowing the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But they were so excited to have him, but their parents weren't, as it is in many instances today. But it's two things I'm saying here, Doc. Just like once we came in contact with you, this is Crow here now.
Yes, sir.
We were so excited that you had depth, but we had the audacity, but the good sense to point out to you, say, well, Doc, you're good at what you do.
Yes,
but
sir.
I think you could be greater if you get this.
Yes,
the
sir.
Honorable Elijah Muhammad's teaching.
Yes, sir.
And you got that, and in doors that we can't get in, you get into them, and people are excited. People ask me, they can't remember your name, but they say, you know that guy who's always talking about blackness, giving you a little history. This is the way they come to me.
Yes, sir.
But they never say, how did you determine that he needed a little of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad? Because you had love of your people anyway. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad is the heavyweight champion of love for black people. And you saw that and connected with that, even though your hero may have been somebody else initially, and you got that much confidence, and I'm putting words in your mouth, but I'm capable of doing that because obviously you meant it, because if that was your hero and you met the messenger, then your hero always comes up a secondary when you talk about the teaching. And that's what you take to a room, but it's still so difficult for people like me to convey that message outwardly to people because they just can't hear it. And we wonder why. And I ask you, you think it's so difficult because, see, it requires one-on-one teaching, to get somebody to see their gift. Now, you already were smart. You know that. You got a doctorate. I don't. But why is it so difficult for our people that you deal with the elite, the educated, the professors? You're on these panels. Well, what's wrong with them, Doc?
Well, there's a couple of things, Brother Manea, and you said a great deal of it in your presentation. First of all, you can become so educated and get that seal, that stamp, like the FBA seal,
Yes.
from that you become arrogant and then you become to the point where you're not teachable. I thank God that when I came to you, I had the formal education, but I hadn't been put to the point of so arrogance that I couldn't listen, learn, and research. And I think my mother and my grandmother who always told me that reach down and pick up your common sense. Sometimes you can be too intelligent to be of any good to anybody but yourself, because you're just using big words. So I think that's what I take, and it take to the classroom or wherever I go. But let me add this to it, Brother Manil, and I think this is extremely important because these young people didn't even know this. I mentioned this to them in the classroom. I said, listen, you are consistently taught, you are consistently taught about all these great events in history, but you're not taught, you don't get taught about the Million Man March. I said, but let me tell you, I don't even want to concentrate on the Million Man March because the student of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the Honorable Louis Minister Farrakhan, for 2 years before the Million Man March, went around this country talking to you about forgiveness, about reuniting with your children, reuniting with your family, and now we got murders on the street of Chicago and streets of Baltimore and these other cities. Not just the Million Man March, that was a one-day event, but what it took to put that together, what every one of the ministers in the Nation of Islam had to do. For 2 years, that man traveled around the nation preparing. He didn't just teach on that day. It wasn't one event, one speech, one group of people. For 2 years, he taught across this nation about forgiveness, restoring yourself, taking care of your children. Now, imagine if we could have really received that and continued that, we wouldn't be seeing the murders now. We missed it 2 years before. Because now even when those who teach the Million Man March teach the event, not what it takes to get a million men to Washington, D.C. Not what it took with you and the ministers in the mosque and the groundwork. There was teaching going even before. That was a one-day presentation, but a 2-year road to get there. And there was teaching going every single city, every single day. And now we forgot about that. Now the white people coming with us, talking about restorative justice. We need to get a justice system to have people forgive, to help them go. Minister, he even said the event was to atone. To look at ourselves, to examine ourselves, like the messenger said.
And some of our people rejected that. And to be precise, this what made this thing so profound. It wasn't on a Saturday night when everybody's off and we can party and say, well, okay, sacrifice the club tonight and we're going to have a teaching. This was on a Monday night, the first day back to work, the first day back to school. After you drink all weekend and got drunk, Louis Farrakhan was somewhere in your city on a Monday night teaching, let us make man. That was the subject. He took the subject that his teacher had given him and affected the entire country. And like you say, now we didn't start off, I didn't call you and say, Doc, let's get together and talk about the Million Man March. But what you're saying is that how do they overlook this history? I would even mention a march knowing that I got to eliminate Louis Farrakhan. But that's what they try and do. And I'm saying to you, brother, it is embarrassing to us when we think about our love affair with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Brother, when I'm having these conversations with the minister, it hurts me because I know it should hurt him. But you know what he'll say? He said, brother, and he see himself in that light spiritually, always talking from a spiritual base. And this is why I say they really don't know him. The guy will say, listen, man, how in the world my people going to offend me when I know where their problems come from? You understand? So I speak to their problem and the people who gave it to them. You know, and that's why now, if you notice, you're hearing Caucasians talk a lot about 6,000 years. When you speak that language, 6,000 years, they didn't get it from themselves. They don't even want to talk like that. But somebody else put that out. And every time I think about the minister and his endurance, in fact, we did something today because we were talking about Mandine, our guy who does things for us, that we got him at the age of 17. And he was determined what he wanted to do. And he was astute in his class. And so much so till we not only appreciated him, but we loved him so much till we went to his people, like come and ask for a date. Say, can I take your, or in this case, your son out, and I want to take him around the world with me, you know? And we did this with him. His parents was not there. These are grandparents, uncles and aunts. But it shows you that when God is building something, he gives you the material to work with. And that young man has been with us from day one like that. And this is the way when you think of a Louis Farrakhan, who has been doing this work 60 or so years, he can't stop even if he wants to stop, because God is with this. And I tell all the critics and everywhere else, had it been a near gain or a short journey, they would have surely followed thee. But it's too hard, so they lie, you know, and try to make excuses. But this thing is God's work. And all of these defects are being manifested. And this is why when we give a guy like you a forum and give you extra material to work with, then, I mean, you're not selfish. You give back. And this is the way Mandine or anybody else, if you get this teaching, you force to do it. Like the messenger said, I would be constipated. His heart would burst if he couldn't teach it, you know? So anyway, yes. I get a little emotional on this because I don't know why black people don't look at the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But go ahead, you want to intervene?
Yeah, you know what? I think the young people will. I don't think we're giving it to them, Brother Munir, because there's not been a classroom I've been in front of. I was at a church yesterday here in Montgomery County, Maryland, black church, giving a presentation on mass incarceration. I brought in some other people with me who I had mentioned this to them. These people sat on the panel with me. These people I brought in was 7 people on the panel. The 2 people I brought in mentioned the Million Man March, mentioned the history, mentioned that. And this was in a Christian church. And what we were saying to them is, you caught up in something that you don't understand. We got to save our children.
That's right.
So if you're walking around allowing other people telling you who to like or dislike or who you can't listen to, and your children are in the morgue, your children are dropping out of school, we got a 70% dropout rate. You mentioned Prince George's County. Prince George's County is the richest county for black people in this nation.
That's
but
right.
The education system is hard. How do you have high police brutality in a county where more wealthy black people, so you got people with money that got go to hell money. So you got black people who don't have to submit or bow down, but they actually could fight for their children, but they were under a consent decree for beating up black people in the county where black people had the most money. So even when our people are economically able, if they don't get what you've been trying to give me and what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave all of us, then they're going to miss it. I don't care how wealthy you are. You can be in the wealthiest county in the nation, and the whites there will still treat you as if you're in the poorest county in the nation if you don't have the ability to carry this forward. And if you don't have the knowledge, then you can't put together a strategy. So all the young people I talk to, Brother Munir, no matter what classroom I'm in, all of them say, well, Doc, we didn't know this. One young lady said to me, she said, I was teaching them about history. She said, my mother knew some of this. She said, but me and my mother had a lot of conversations, but we never had this one. She said, I went home and asked my mother, why didn't you tell me this? Her mother said, I knew it, daughter, but I thought, and the young lady's doing well now. She said, I thought you were getting it in school. So here they're in a household. That would never happen in your household. Here they're in a household having dinner. The mother thinks the daughter knows it. The daughter doesn't know it, but want to know now, since I've been giving it to her.
Why didn't you tell me?
Why she didn't tell me. So that's the disjunct. The young people want it. The grown folks are not giving it to them, and thus we have the balance that we're seeing across this nation.
Brothers and sisters, we're streaming live all over the entire world, and we're so thankful that we have this opportunity to talk to Dr. Tyrone Powers. And I understand my sister Rita GAYLE is with us all the way from London. Is that right or wrong? Are you there with me, beloved?
Yes, sir, I am. Thank you so much. I'm really enjoying listening to the show.
Well,
very much so.
We're really happy to have you. And let me just say this, brother and sister. This is what makes me happy, that my sister lives in London. And she worked for the BBC. I always preference that because even though it's not necessarily true, we assumed that the BBC was superior to ABC, CBS for that matter, here in the United States. And this sister came to visit us 20-some years ago. Now, let me say this to you. I know a lot of you don't like me, and I don't like a lot of you. But I do love my people. That's the difference. But now, just think, ask yourself this. If Mandy was trying to explain our longevity today, how long we've been doing this work. Now, if Rita, I think it was 20-some years ago in 1992, was it 92 when I first met you, Rita?
1995, sir.
1995, okay. I gave you a few extra years. So what, you don't look it anyway. Anyway, this woman came to visit us. They were doing research on black people. They call it socialism. Anytime they talk about socialism, they really are social studies of any kind. They really talk about black people. If they're not, if you got a degree in socialism, I don't know. Anyway, forget what I said. Just pay attention to me now. Rita Gayle comes here. It's so impactful to me and Man March and what we're doing, but she connects with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And Minister Farrakhan certainly was the premier focal point. You couldn't help but be mesmerized by him, having the connection to him. And I was sort of like a facilitator, if you will. But she stayed in touch with us because she knew she had heard. Well, Rita, you on the phone. Don't let me go down this road. What about it, dear? What was it? Are you there?
Brother Manir? Yes, sir. I know for myself that I heard something that I'd not heard before, and I absolutely recognize that as black people, those of us who were brought in chains from Africa as part of the transatlantic slave trade, the devastation that has caused our lives ever since, and the fracture in our families, in our hearts, in our spirits, that have continued up to the present day. And we need solutions for that. And particularly here in Britain, you know, many of the issues that the two of you were talking about earlier in the show, I mean, you know, you could be talking about Britain right now, the violence, the miseducation that's going on, the real deep desire of our young people to know the truth about their history. And as elders, as parents, we made a lot of assumptions about what we believed, or should I say hoped, has been going on in our schools and universities. Our young people can go right through education, through to undergraduate, postgraduate even, and not knowing anything about even how they got to America, which seems crazy, but it's true. This is happening. And we need knowledge. We need truth about who we are and what our purpose is.
Right.
And the education system that we are experiencing, be it in America, be it in Europe, is not feeding that desire. It's definitely not doing that, and it's causing our young people so much pain, so much anger, and we're at a turning point. Certainly here in the UK, we're at a turning point where our young people are like, no, we're not going to continue like this. And they're looking for their own answers right now.
Well, let me intervene in this way. You, of course, have met Dr. Powers. You all have become friends. And, you know, the word has connected us all over the world. And this is why we say we're streaming live. Because this message is becoming universal. If it were universal at that time, we wouldn't be teaching it. But it's a continuation until it reaches every part of the earth, wherever there are people, then it has to resonate, and then it'll germinate. I want to know from you, Doc, and Rita, you all can jump in. Again, brothers and sisters, we're streaming live. If you want to talk to us, you can call us, 773-434-6625 or 434-6631. They talk about all these movements. This is for both of you. And I can start with you, Doc. This movement or that movement. And we know how easily there are movements to be hijacked when we're not really in charge. And so many times people come into good ideas that we may have and they act as the supplanter, uproot our thoughts, and we find ourselves following them. What have you seen, both of you, in the last few years, and who you think has been in charge of some of these organizations that our people think they're free of the hand of the outside propaganda machine? Any one of you. Did I make it clear?
Yes, sir. Well, I would say, and then I'll let my sister intervene. And I know you'd rather have her on the screen than me, but I'm gonna go with it.
No, I want to look. Rita understand. Rita likes fair play. But Rita, if you want to answer first.
Well, I was just thinking about a response to that, but what I will say briefly, if I may, is that I think there have been grassroots organizations. I think the difficulty is that people have started off with good intentions. I think whenever I see an organization come about, I always follow the money and see who's sponsoring this. And often when you look in the detail, you see suddenly big corporations and people who have built their agencies and enterprises really on the suffering of our people. And so it would be strange then that those same organizations would be the one to emancipate us. So my understanding is that groups who are doing good work, they've kept small, they've been grassroots, and they're working closely with the communities. I think it's about accountability, and I think it's about who are these groups accountable to? Are they accountable to the executive board, who are not often members of our communities, or are they accountable to the people?
Good point.
I would simply add this to it. You know, the young people, I think, who are associated with these organizations go on with good intentions. Problem is that they're grown folks, the ones that look like us, haven't educated and prepared them, so the organizations are easily co-opted and turned in another direction. If the young people saw this or knew the history of how this works strategically, how they start something, they are completely invested, and they may not even have the knowledge to keep it going, because as we've always talked about, Brother Manea, you know, you can go out there and be ignorant and lead people, because ignorant people just want something. But if we educate these young people as to what should be happening in these organizations, then they will be able to push back. So I say that the fact that these organizations exist, that they're bringing people together, that they're trying to push a movement, then I think we got to kind of hijack them back. And I think that's the kind of presentations that I've been able to give over the last couple of days, thanks to you educating me and helping me to learn things. And when I get the opportunity and I open the eyes of young people, then they go back to those organizations and say, wait a minute, I know what you said, but let me tell you what I know. And I think we have to prepare them to stay in the organization, to take their money. So what? Take their money, but then be intelligent and strong enough to guide it in the direction they wanted to go, rather than let people co-opt. You easily co-opt if you're ignorant. Intelligence and freedom cannot exist in the same place. And you may think you're intelligent, but you're not free if you're ignorant.
Now, you said an awful lot, and Rita, Gayle, I'm glad that you're sticking with us. And I want to make a couple of comments as we begin to transition. Now, we have people in the audience here. We've acquired an audience for people to communicate with us around the world, not just around the city, but around the world, that she's in London, you in Baltimore, but we have people in between who don't see the significance of just a conversation. My brother called from Maryland, which was great, but you have people who know the subject matter is important. For an example, that Me Too movement, I remember this young sister that I've seen around Minister Parker, and it's highlighted up, Mika, I think her name is. Forgive me, I don't want to butcher their name, but as Mandine said, he's a certain age, a little too old for the young people. Well, you know if you're a little too old, you know they don't give a damn about me. So I don't know their names either. But the point is, what I want to make, is that the white people wanted to know why would she be talking about Minister Parker. You see, whatever the movement is, they intertwine with their little propaganda. How dare you mention this man? You and I just talked about the #1 historical march or gathering in the world almost has been with Minister Parker and Bar to 1 million or 2 black men in America. Not to think about the 6 million in Iran that he spoke to. But the idea that that's #1 news, why wouldn't a young black girl be affected by a man that she's had the privilege to sit and have dinner with? Do you understand my point?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So they can come on and talk about it. And for example, even the Aretha Franklin visual, Whoopi Goldberg said, well, you have to ask the family why was he there. Who cares? What does that mean?
Yes,
Even
sir.
a funeral?
Yes, sir.
I got to ask your permission to go to a funeral. Somebody is dead and gone. But these people come up with silly stuff like that. I can remember, God is my witness, even though it was 10, 12 years ago. I'm at my home minding my own business. I get a call. They had on the headline of the paper, is TV talk show host a uniter or separatist? This is the headline. A picture of me. And a guy called me. He wasn't black. He was a Caucasian. He said, Munir, I said, you got to clean that up. He said, clean that up? What are you talking about? Something that his people wrote about me, and I got to clean it up. Do you understand? But
Yes,
they'll
sir.
throw that out like, oh my God, they don't want to know if I'm a separatist or a uniter. But do you know they did an investigation? I told you, God is my witness. I was a building inspector, brothers and sisters. Let me tell you, just in case you don't know what a building inspector is. Damn, I know they hope I'm dying. But listen, they study rats and roaches. Now, they want to study. Now, can you imagine the night and day they got to go back and say, well, damn, I saw him talking to a white person the other day, and he was smiling. You understand? They did stuff like that. He actually smiled. He got dimples and stuff. You understand?
Yes,
So
sir.
look at what they do, but look at our weak people who don't know any better. They adopt that and run with it. That's what they did with the minister. I sit over at T.L. Barrett's church the other day to watch that man walk through Jesus' history as if he owned it. And the reason I know the history, because we got the book. We produced it. The true history of Jesus, that we got it from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. We got the birth of a Savior from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. We got Message to the Black Man from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I was reading the Holy Quran, the 74th and 75th surah. The 74th surah talks about one wrapping himself up. And it goes something like this, warning to those who would go on or be left behind. Said, you found yourself in hell, Rita and Dr. Powell, and we wandering around in hell, and we said, well, Rita, what brought you to hell? And Doc said, well, we indulged in vain talk with vain talkers. We called the judgment a lie. You understand? We were
Yes,
so
sir.
fearful, we was like fleeing from a lion. Then I read, of course, the birth of a Savior tied with the resurrection, which the Honorable Elijah Muhammad produced. We didn't know any better. We weren't the authors of it. The messenger was the author of the book, but we, unsuspecting, knew that we were missing a connection, and we brought the books about. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was as on time with the Holy Quran as he was with the Bible. But because of a Negro don't know that, and white people want to make you think he's some evil spoken of man, then you go bury that. And now this man, when he comes out, you got to repeat what the master said about it. I tell you, it's very, very sad. But God himself is tired of that kind of thing. Let me go to a caller, because I get carried away. Caller, you're on the air. I'm going to take a couple calls, give you a chance to wrap up, and I'll bring in my last guest. Caller, are you there?
Yes, I am. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Munair. And I'm going to give the greetings to our sister Gayle in London and to our brother Dr. Powers calling from Maryland.
Where you calling from?
This is Brother Sidney calling from the Bronx, New York.
Brother,
I'm just letting you know that I'm on and I'm being well fed. I'm going to hang up so I can continue to listen and continue to get my spiritual food. I thank you for your program. I love you.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you. I appreciate that call. Our brothers and sisters, we're streaming live. And just give us a call. Do I have another caller? I think I have another caller. I don't? Okay, well, Doc, you see, it's so sad that our people feel that they have to be fearful. And I'm glad that you're on the radio. They bring you in as a consultant. Rita was so brilliant and still brilliant. The woman came here, and she came here one time, and she said, well, you know what? I'm going to be here for 6 weeks, Munir. Next thing I know, she was writing a book. How can people come from the outside, take a look at the how we're laying dormant? She could pick up this gold and say, look, this is what we should be doing. And I mean, it's really fascinating to me, and I'm so thankful that I can call you all friends. So what do you like to say, Doc? And Rita, I'm going to give you a chance to, both of you.
Yeah, I just want to say, Brother Munair, I keep emphasizing this point because I'm so pleased with my relationship with you that have allowed me to go forward and do this. And I haven't encountered hardly any resistance from the young people. What I've counted is kind of a shock and awe that they didn't know this, that their parents didn't teach them this, that their teachers didn't teach them this, right. And that had they known this, they would be in a better place or a different place. And so I have to continue to give it to them, hoping that they can give it to others and that we can develop that courage that allow us to change our situation. Because you shouldn't, I mean, as I said before, the whites won't even, half the Senate won't even deny this guy who may be involved in sexual, and they got us denying somebody who ain't did nothing but try to help us. You know what I'm saying?
That's
so
right.
It's a remarkable dichotomy when you can put it together. Because I tell young people, I say, while you're looking at this Supreme Court battle, so on and so forth, think about how many of your women have been harassed.
That's right.
How many little girls have been harassed in schools. Or you want to go back on slave ships that have been raped. We never had 52% of white women voted for Donald Trump, who's putting this guy on the court. Now they're angry with him because it's a white woman that's doing this. Had it been Anita Hill, I mean, that's all I'm saying. And when I use these as teachable moments, that we don't get too caught up in them and start whining and crying with the rest of them, but then we don't understand that they actually put us in this situation.
That's right. That's right. Rita, what do you want to say? And let me say this, brothers and sisters. See, Rita GAYLE is an investigative reporter professionally. But not only this woman was in London. But she was so good at what she did when she came to America and started hanging with me. At first, she was going to L.A. I guess she thought she was going to be an actress. But she changed her mind and came to Chicago. And I took her to prison with me. See, if you're going to come work with Munir, you think you want to work, and you say, if you have to go to hell for greatness, go there. Because in order to experience the limitless heights of heaven, you may have to go to the bottomless pit of hell. And she found herself in prison with me, going to see the people in prison. That's what we did. And I am so tired, brothers and sisters, that you can't recognize that the same spirit that Honorable Elijah Muhammad had, he gave it to us and made us go fight for the underdog. And you still can't see it. And we shouldn't have to beg you for any help. You should be standing in line saying, what can you do to help us? But anyway, what do you want to say, Rita?
Brother Munair, I just wanted to say Actually, I'm really glad you took me downstate to the prison. I learned a lot to be there in the women's prison, to see really who was there. And those experiences was very humbling for me. But I would like to absolutely agree with Dr. Powers, and just to say that actually our young people have witnessed what is going on around them, and actually are really showing real courage right now. And what they need and so desperately want is that knowledge to just help them go to take that step further. Because many are stepping out, but as Dr. Powers so eloquently stated, they're getting caught up in things because that information, that knowledge that they need in order to navigate these institutions and situations, they're not able to do so. But they definitely have the courage, and they definitely have the desire to seek freedom. And I think it's for those of us, the elders amongst us, to recognize where they are and actually give them the tools so that they can move forward. They're ready to do the work, Brother Munir.
Well, I hope so. And let me say this to you. I thank you, Dr. Powers. I thank you for coming in. I thank my dear sister Rita. And Doc, it's always a pleasure. And you keep right out there working, keep consulting for your people. And you are available. So do you all want to give an address so people looking for you as a consultant? I know you're a professional, well, you do so many things, but are you available for the courts and consultant?
Yes, sir. My email is powers@tpowersconsulting.com, powers@tpowersconsulting.com.
So you still Bruh Powers, though?
Yes,
still
sir.
a brother.
I got that too, though.
So what about you, Rita?
Yeah, you know, I'm still on social media. I'm using Twitter. I'm got to work with one of them, so I've chosen that as my option. So,
what about your book?
People can reach out. They can reach out for me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is Rita_GAYLE. So my name with an underscore. Just search me using your preferred search engine and just connect. You know, and we'll take it from there. But you know. You will be having Founders Day is not far on the horizon.
It's
so
in March.
Hopefully, I will meet people.
That's right.
We'll meet people there in Chicago.
Very good. We look forward to seeing you, my dear brothers and sisters. I'm going to take a quick break, and I'm going to come back with another interesting guest. Maybe I can go out and find a teenager or something to see if they know anything. Okay. Assalamu alaikum. We are back, and brothers and sisters, I certainly enjoyed my guest, but I decided that I would bring in, since Dr. Powell said he was so happy that he lived long enough to see his children grown and got a chance to see his grandchildren. And I was just wondering, am I happy that I get a chance to see my grandchildren? So I decided to see if I could find one, and I did. And he's RASHAD Tariq, I guess. Right?
RASHAD Tariq Muhammad.
Yeah, why would I say I guess? I know it's RASHAD Tariq, don't I?
Yes, sir.
But I'm trying to decide where I'm going with this. How are you?
Fine, how are you?
When you hear Dr. Powell say it's not being conveyed to the young people in the right way, I guess he alluded to, but when he takes it, put him in a classroom, and he'll be able to take it on home. Now, you are in college, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, do you think something is missing? Because I don't see the people on the college level flocking to pick up the book, Message to the Black Man. Do you see anybody in there with their book bags carrying that book? Is that your favorite discussion? Or do you communicate with people with a name like Muhammad? Are they even curious about your name?
Well, from the time, well, I've been in college for about a month and a half or so, and we haven't discussed it at all. There's been no mention of Elijah Muhammad in any of my classes. But I do think that is a missing element because there's so much knowledge in these teachings. Learn about your knowledge of yourself, God, and the devil. That's the most important knowledge you can have.
Yeah, but let me ask you this. Do you feel like you have an obligation to share this, or have you been told that, I don't want to go and proselytize what I believe, I'm just going to get an education, and
No. If I'm talking to other students, I may bring it up, not every conversation. Yeah, if they ask me about my name, I tell them I'm a Muslim follower of Elijah Muhammad, what my name means. And if they continue to go further into discussion, then we discuss it, but it doesn't always happen that way. So, yeah.
But when they ask you about Grateful Dead, do you tell them how many songs Grateful Dead made and when their next album coming out, or anything like that? You understand my point? Well, whoever musically you listen to, or do you?
Yeah, I listen to music. If we talk about music, yeah, I can talk about music.
Yeah, but I mean, that's an all-day kind of conversation. That's neutral, right? Yeah. But I was saying something like this is not the topic of the day. When you see the wearing away of the world right before your very eyes, the lack of stability in the country, the immorality in the country, that everything goes in the country. And when you think about the limited time with this 6,000 years, does anything come to mind to you?
Well, I do think that we're in a terrible state, but I know that I have these teachings and that this is really all I need to be successful. If I apply myself, no matter what I do, I can be great. And it is my responsibility to spread this message. And in a way, I think not just myself, but everybody can do a better job of spreading this message. So we just have to work harder for it. That's all it is.
But I guess what I'm trying to bring home, sometimes we can be constipated. We have so much in us and it can't come out. And we have to do something. Sometimes you take a laxative to make something come out. So do you think the more you gather in information and see the lack of, when you think of knowledge with your own people, as you hear about the killings of one another, the downright just fiendish acts that you see in America and in our community, period. Do you have any empathy for black people that you'd like to help to correct something? Does anything bother you?
Yeah, I do. I don't like black on black crime because that's when the white people see us killing one another, they're not going to respect us. They think that we're savages.
White people kill one another.
Yeah, but it's more talked about with us killing one another than them.
Yeah, right? but that myth that when they talk, it's not a myth. People do kill each other who know each other a lot. You know what I mean? Because sometimes we want to kill each other. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
And so, I ain't mad with white people because they don't do the things that I want them to do. But I would be mad with my own grandchild if I wanted him to do certain things properly and he didn't do it. So it could get to a boiling point. You understand?
I understand.
Yeah. Well, let me say this. I'm just all excited that you come in. I mean, this has been a whale of a show, hasn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So is there anything that you'd like to say to... What were you doing prior to sitting here?
I was working the camera.
So you were my flow director.
Yes, sir.
What was that like?
Oh, I do it every week, so yeah, you get used
So it's
to it.
routine now.
Yeah, yes, sir.
I mean, but do you ever think and say, man, this is pretty cool, you know, I get a chance to be the flow director for my grandpa. Does that ever occur?
When I first started doing it, like it was like peak excitement. Now that I've done it, it's just like, you know,
The excitement is gone.
I don't want to say it's gone, but it's just, you know,
Well, it's not there. It must.
it's just, you know, it's just same old, same old. You're just used to it. You're just used to it.
The thrill is gone.
Yes, sir.
All right, well, let me say this. Thank you so much for coming in. Yeah?
No problem.
Okay. Okay, my dear brothers and sisters, as you can see, we had a chance to talk to RASHAD Tariq Muhammad, the grandson of Munir Muhammad, and I'm thankful that he came in. We thank Dr. Tyrone Powers and our beloved sister Rita GAYLE. I'm Munir Muhammad. Thank you so much for watching, and may Allah bless you with the light of understanding as I greet you in peace. Assalamu alaikum.